Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back for another video. Today's video will be doing a Taliyah jungle guide for Season 10. So this guide is designed for maybe you're beginner to jungling, beginner to Taliyah. I just said her name two different ways, by the way. If you're new to that champion, or maybe you've been playing for a little bit, but you just want to know how to optimize your gameplay and see if the changes impact on how you play Taliyah in Season 10. This video should give you all the tools to set you up for success to make that goal happen. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Alright, here we are looking at your runes. So before you ever get into the game, we got to look at your rune setup first. So we have your runes pulled up. I have the electrocute set up right here. Before we dive into this setup, I just want to say something that I'm not really going to talk about too much. An alternative, a completely alternative rune setup to a domination tree setup is Phase Rush is super fun on Taliyah. It's very, very fun, and it's my favorite setup, but it definitely is not optimal, but it is very fun. To just kind of run around and be super speedy quick in the jungle. So try it out. It's really fun. But let's talk about the optimal setup here. So we have the domination tree start right here. So I have electrocute as your keystone, but you could totally take dark harvest if you want to. It's really a matter of preference. Dark harvest is a little bit better off. They're like consistent in different ways if you don't know the difference. So it's just where the damage is put. So electrocute, all the damage is front loaded at the beginning and is a little bit more decent early game and feels a little bit more consistent. But Dark Harvest damage is backloaded, so on the end of the fight, it applies the damage and is consistent in a different way because you know you'll always get it and it'll reset in fights and it feels a little bit nice. So it's really a matter of preference. I always prefer Electrocute. Most of the time I prefer Electrocute. But so we have Electrocute set up right here. Cheap Shot's going to be super good. It's going to apply on your E and your W, so your pushback and your little rocks you throw out in front of you. It's going to apply on both of those. And so it's just going to be super nice. Not really anything else you want to take in that line. We have Eyeball Collection here, but again, you can take, if you want to take your little Ghost Poro or your Zombie Ward. If you're, if you find yourself clearing a lot of vision, and start taking Zombie Ward. But if you're in low elo or you're playing normals and you're not even ranked or anything like that, then I wouldn't recommend taking Zombie Wards. People don't even use wards, and even if they do, they don't look at them. So you could take Ghost Poro or Eyeball Collection here. Any of those are really fine. Ravenous Hunter is going to be super nice here. So Taliyah synergizes super well with healing. I mean, her damage is really consistent, and it's she does a lot of front-loaded damage, but then has consistent damage after it, which will do really well with healing. So after you get your front-loaded combo out, you still have a lot of damage because you just basically spam your Q, and the healing feels quite nice on it as well. So the healing feels great. Ravenous Hunter is really what you're going to want to take. It feels so nice, especially if you're staying healthy in the jungle and stuff like that. It feels very good. If you wanted to take Relentless Hunter, that would be okay, but you'd probably have a tough time. Especially like resetting for health after fights. Just Ravenous Hunter is going to be great. You could try Relentless Hunter if you wanted to. It'd be super fun to just zip around the map. That's always great. But Ravenous Hunter is really going to be your best bet here. All right, secondary tree, we have the sorcery setup. So we have Celerity, just going to synergize with Taliyah's passive, with her with the passive where she gains movement speed around rocks, around terrain, and then also on her worked ground. So it's going to synergize super well with that. And then we have water walking here, which is really nice for, whenever you're in the river. So just Taliyah is so much fun to play in a jungle because how she can just zip around the map super fast and get some stuff done early in the game. And then she like instantly farms our camps mid-game. So just synergizes super well with her kit. Alternatively, you could go into Precision Tree and grab Presence of Mind. The new Presence of Mind is pretty cool. So Taliyah, you find yourself sometimes in the mid to late game running out of mana, since you don't build high mana items anymore, and Presence of Mind can feel nice, but really it's just a luxury grabbing Presence of Mind. So your best bet most of the time is still going to be Celerity, Water Walking. Just feels super nice to move around the jungle really, really fast like that. All right, now we have our stat runes. So I have the attack speed rune still right here. If you want to take Adaptive Force, that'd be fine as well. Just attack speed feels so nice for kiting camps, especially, on ranged champions who, on their first couple of clears, are little, not quite as healthy. It does feel much nicer to have some attack speed right there, but if you wanted to take Adaptive Force there, that would be fine as well. It doesn't really make a difference in your clear speed. I just prefer attack speed runes to help you kite the camps a little bit smoother and keep you a little bit more healthy in the jungle. And then we have Adaptive Force, and then we have Armor right here. Armor is going to be pretty pretty nice here rather than MR ever. Your first couple of clears, especially if you're new to playing like range champions in the jungle and you're not very good at kiting, it will feel really bad if you don't have this armor. You'll take a lot of damage. So there we go. Alternatively to any of this rune setups, you definitely could go Phase Rush. It's very fun. It's not optimal. Alternatively, you could also go Conqueror. Is fun, but it's not very good. So the issue with going Conqueror on Taliyah, because she seems like someone who'd be a good user of it because she has a lot of consistent damage through a fight. The issue with it is after her first Q hits, the other rocks that come out of the Q don't apply Conqueror stacks. I went in and tested on Practice Tool because I was wondering about it, but they don't actually apply additional stacks from the additional rocks that are thrown out from a single Q charge. So it will not apply it very quickly, and you really just need the front-loaded damage or the movement speed that maybe you can get from phaser. All right, now let's look at Taliyah's items. So let's look over here. So first off, we're going to be taking Runic Echoes 100% of the time. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're going to go ahead and take Blue Smite here. Normally, I will always talk about the difference between Red Smite, Blue Smite, all that good stuff. Blue Smite feels really nice on Taliyah because whenever you're going for those ganks and maybe you didn't line up your Q correctly, them being slowed and you're able to just pelt them in the back with your Q just feels so nice. Especially, assassins will jump on top of you, will do their front-loaded combo. Yeah, Red Smite would help with that, but just being able to keep them at a distance, you get your Seismic Shove off, you get the boom, boom, bam, and then they get close enough to you, you're still pelting them with rocks, you Blue Smite them. It feels so nice. You could take Red Smite totally, but Blue Smite just feels really nice on Taliyah. You can use it to guarantee, to confirm your combo as well. So there's a lot of uses that you can get out of Blue Smite on Taliyah. It feels really nice on her. Cool, and then we're going to have Sork Boots every single game just about. Maybe sometimes you could go Merc Treads. Merc Treads is nice when you're playing in mid lane and stuff like that. You have a Syndra matchup, something like that. You could go Merc Treads sometimes, but really you just want to pump out some deeps. And Runic Echoes is such a solid early game item, and then combo that with some Sork Boots, and you can basically one-shot squishies early on in the game. It feels really nice. Right here we have a Dark Seal as well. Dark Seal is just a really solid item to buy on your first or second back if you have money for it. On your first back, you want to buy your Blue Smite if you're able to get it, and then if you all you have gold left for is a Dark Seal, that'll feel nice too, Dark Seal or Boots on your first back. It's just really nice, has some mana. Taliyah is really, if you play her correctly, and there's not a lot of people who can one-shot you in the game, Taliyah stays alive most of the game. She's kind of like Lux in a way that she has a ton of range, and then can self-peel herself. So you have to get in a little closer than Lux does, but you have more self-peel and more healing built into your champion's kit. So you do actually stay alive if you're playing really well and your team's doing fine. You'll stay alive a lot of the game. So getting an early Dark Seal can be really nice into your build. All right, let's look at some solid item choices. I have some situational items that are below that I'll go ahead and talk about when I'm done with solid items, but it'll be on the picture with the final build that I'll pull up on the screen. But yeah, so let's just talk about some solid items real quick. So we have Morellonomicon first up right here. Doesn't necessarily mean you build it second. Really, you just want the pin out of this item. If it makes sense to complete the item for the healing reduction, then complete the item. Like if they have a lot of healing champions, like a Vlad, Aatrox, something like that on the enemy team, then you can finish it. If not, just getting that early Oblivion Orb would be super nice for getting that extra burst damage at the beginning of the game. So you can either build this first item completed, or just build the Oblivion Orb after your Sork Boots and get that extra burst. Or you can skip the item altogether and maybe build it later, or maybe not at all. Just it's a little bit more situational than a solid core item, but Magic Pin almost always is good on Taliyah. That's why it's in the solid items right here. But you don't always have to complete this item. If they have no healing on the enemy team, just buy the pin and then skip on the Leandries, or just skip it altogether, buy Leandries instead. All right, now we have a Leandries Torment. It's probably one of the most broken items in the game. I don't know if it's going to get nerfed this season. It's been broken for like half a year. So this item is insane. It's so good on Taliyah. It synergizes with her W and her E. It'll apply the extra burn effect from it being a CC ability, because you'll slow with both parts of your E, and then obviously the knockback on your W will also apply this as well. It's so good, and Taliyah has so much elongated damage, so pelting with them rocks will reapply it each time. It's a really solid item on her. Death Cap explains itself. Death Cap's just a solid item all the time. Cool. We have Zhonya's right here, so if they have a lot of assassins or people who can jump on you, Zhonya's Zhonya speaks for itself. It's just a great outplay tool and a great item. And especially if you are building like a Dark Seal and you end up building, the magic book, Magi Soul Stealer, Jesus. If you end up building that, then this is going to be helpful with that, with keeping you alive and keeping your stacks up and stuff like that. Cool. All right, here we have Ryways. You definitely don't have to build Ryways every game, but if they have a lot of melees on the enemy team, then this can be a really effective item. It's a really solid item, you know, almost all the time. But if they have mostly ranged champions, this item isn't going to be quite as good. But it does synergize with your Leandries. It'll apply the Leandries extra burn on your Q. Just a really solid item altogether. But if they have a lot of melees, let's say they have 4 melees on the enemy team, you can build this pretty early in your build. It's a very cheap item. Build this in Leandries pretty early in your build. It'll feel really nice. So let's go ahead and talk about situational items. And really on Taliyah, there's really not any. I have like a situational items tab because I always have a situational items tab. But these are pretty, you know, you could build these most games and it'd be fine as well. It depends a little bit on whether you want to build it. That's why it's in situational. I don't have those items pulled up yet. It'll be on the example final build. Let's just go ahead and talk about them. So we have our Void Staff. Void Staff, obviously, if they have a lot of people building an MR on the enemy team, then you want to build a Void Staff. That's why it's on situational. So you don't necessarily always have to have this in your Taliyah build because she does consistent long damage and stuff like that. And the utility items that you can build on Taliyah are a little bit more valuable most of the time. That's why I have it in this tab. But if they have a lot of tanks on the enemy team, they're building a lot of MR, then obviously build Void Staff is going to be really nice. All right, we have Abyssal, or wait, this isn't called Abyssal anymore. Bansheesville. They changed the names of the items. Bansheesville. Bansheesville is going to be pretty nice against a lot of, you know, magic damage teams, or if they have like a Karthus jungle on the enemy team, that can be really nice against that as well. You can basically block out his ultimate when you're out of combat. That would feel nice. So yeah, that's why it's situation right there. If they have a lot of magic damage on the enemy team, you can build this somewhere in your build. Fit it in there instead of your Zhonya's will be fine. And then we have Magi Soul Stealer. So as I said before, Taliyah, she's really good at staying alive in games. And so if you're landing your combos super cleanly and you already got 10 stacks in your Dark Seal, you can build this, and it's super nice because it synergizes with your movement speed as well, helps you zip around the map. It does feel pretty nice. So if you're snowballing, you can build this item pretty early, and it does feel nice. All right, now let's look at your final build. So this is just an example of what a final build could look like. Doesn't necessarily have to be like this. Obviously, guys, you can fit in a lot of different items, but this is going to be a semi-consistent build. Taliyah has, honestly, a lot of really good items that are pretty situational. Like, I don't have Ryways in this build, but, you know, like I said before, they got a lot of melees. You can fit a Ryways into here, and it's going to be super nice. You know, maybe you take out Morello, maybe you take out Deathcap, maybe... Honestly, there's just a whole lot of items you can build on Taliyah. It's all of our builds are pretty situational, but this one's going to be pretty solid most of the time. So we have our Runic Echoes, our Pin Boots, our additional pin item with the Morellonomicon. But if they don't have a lot of healing champions on the enemy team, maybe just grab the pin early, and maybe this fits into your full build. Maybe you end up selling it for, you know, maybe a different item, you know, that's more situational to what's happening in the game. And then we have Leandries. Leandries is the best item in the game. On AP champions, bar none. If you can apply this, it's the best item in the game. So we're going to build that basically every game. We have a Zhonya just on here. You don't necessarily have to build Zhonya's every game, but Zhonya is going to be pretty solid most of the time. Just gives you another outplay tool. And then we finish it off with our Deathcap. This is the build order, but remember what I said before. You can build Leandries earlier in the build. It is a really expensive item, so if you're snowballing, it does get effective to build this earlier in the game. But additionally, if you're also snowballing, you can finish your Magi's. Or you can build the pin part of the Morellonomicon and help you one-shot people. So you have a lot of build options. So if you're snowballing super heavy, I just love Leandries. I would build that next, and that would feel nice. But you can also just get the pin item or the Magi's. Those are all fine right there. And then you can basically just round it out with whatever you want. This example build right here is going to be solid most of the time. But Taliyah is one of those champions where you really want to adapt your build to what's going on in the game. Like a Ryways is going to be really solid against a lot of melees. You can build it anytime you want to. It's a really cheap item, but it's more effective against if they have a lot of melees on the enemy team. And then Deathcap's going to be good all the time. But remember, guys, just adapt your build to what's going on in the game. This is just an example build. Don't necessarily have to build this, but if you do build this build, it's going to be solid in most cases. All right, let's talk about Taliyah's abilities. All right, let's talk about this. So her passive, we're going to go through this pretty quick because I think if you're watching this video, you might know what she does. But we're going to go through this kind of quickly then. So our passive is her rock surfing ability. So if she's near terrain, so if she's near rocky terrain, she'll ride her little rock and she'll surf. She gains additional movement speed around the map. So whenever you're moving around the map, just make sure you're hugging walls when you're in pathways. This does not work while you're in combat. This part of the passive doesn't work while you're in combat. and all that good stuff. The other part of the passive is whenever she fires a Q, she will create worked ground below her, and you'll see it. There's a circle indicator on the ground. So she creates worked ground below her, and she'll get movement speed off the worked ground below her. But it's not as much as rock surfing will give you, but it does give you movement speed while you're standing on worked ground. Also, what it does is it'll make it to where your Q can only fire one shot rather than the 4 or 5 or whatever it shoots out. So it will cause you to get movement speed, but also worked ground will cause you to not be able to throw all of your volleys with your Q. All right, now let's talk about your Q ability, which is your most consistent damage ability. So I just talked about it a little bit, but you'll pick a direction that you want to fire your Q, and so it's a line skill shot you'll throw out. It can only hit one enemy at a time, so it does not do splash damage. It used to do splash damage upon release, but it does not anymore. It'll only hit the unit that you throw in front of you, and you cannot change direction of the unit. You can only just change Taliyah's position. So if you are throwing your Q right here and then the enemy flashes to the side, in order for you to aim that same Q at them, you would also have to flash to the side. You would not be able to turn Taliyah and make her Q fire a different direction. It fires the direction you initially charge it. It shoots out a couple different shots. If an enemy is hit by one, the subsequent hits from that specific volley, so that activation of the volley, subsequent hits after the first one will do reduced damage to them. Also applies on minions like that as well. So whenever you're clearing your jungle and you're clearing AoE camps, it's very important to, if you hit a unit, you want to move from side to side to hit the other units around it so you can get maximum damage output. You will still apply damage, but it just applies less if you've already hit them with one of your volleys. On next activation, that passive will reset. So if you hit them with a volley and then you get your second volley up, the first hit on that second volley will still apply full damage, so will not get reduced. And like I said before, if you're standing on worked ground, you'll throw out one shot instead of your big volley attack, right? You only throw out one shot, and it will only cost 1 mana when you're on worked ground. So that is nice as well. Just 1 mana, just one. So that does feel nice right there. All right, let's talk about your W. So your W is Seismic Shove, and that is your ability to knock up enemies and push them the direction of your choice. Whenever you're using the champion, and I'll show you at the end of the game, or at the end of this video, whenever you use it, you'll press your W and then you'll drag your cursor. You don't have to click your cursor. If you're on Quick Cast, you don't have to click your cursor. But you'll press W and then you'll drag your cursor in the direction that you want them to be moved towards. If you don't pick a direction, you just press the button. It'll just shoot them most of the time in the direction that you were moving your mouse previously. So if you're pushing your mouse forward to aim it at the enemy and you just press the button, then it will push them forward. It'll push them away from you. So if you don't press any buttons, it'll do it in the direction that you're most previously pushing because it just has to default to direction. But you can push them any direction. You push them towards you, in front of you, to the left, to the right. You just press it and then move it over. It has a little bit of delayed effect. The enemy will be able to see the indicator appearing on the ground, and then they will be shoved in the direction that it goes. If you have any rocks laying on the ground at the time, it will explode those rocks, dealing the explosion damage that will happen on your E. Cool, but we'll talk about that and we'll show that combo at the end of the game. All right, now let's talk about your E. So your E, you're gonna, I forget what the ability is called, but you'll throw rocks in front of you and you'll set them on the ground. It'll apply damage when you throw it out, and then after a few seconds, the rocks will explode and it will deal damage to them once they explode as well. Additionally, if an enemy were to dash over it, so let's say Shin, for example, like a champion like Shin, he has a dash in his kit. If he was to dash on top of those rocks before they explode, then they would explode on top of him. So the rocks that he dashes through would explode. Same thing works for any type of dash. It doesn't necessarily work for blinks, but it would work for like LeBlanc dashing forward but not under blink backwards. Yasuo dashing around a fight, it would work on him. Camille, it would work on her. Anything like that. Lee Sin taking his Q, it would work on that as well. All that stuff, guys. Akali R, all that stuff. It work on that. It just doesn't work on blinks. Is the only thing it doesn't work on. Cool. So I will show you some combos with this ability at the end of the video, but I'll just say this. If you Seismic Shove them, so you use your W and shove them through those rocks, it will make them immediately explode rather than waiting for the timer to go up and for them to explode as well. All right, let's talk about your ultimate. So your ultimate, you create the big wall of glory. So if you press R, Taliyah will throw out a wall in front of her. It's a line skill shot. It's a semi-global. It gains size with levels you do in the game. If you are to double tap the ability, so you just press R twice rather than once, you just press it twice, Taliyah will ride ride the rock wall whenever she creates it, and then you just pick a side you want to jump off on whenever you want to jump off. If you don't pick a side, you'll just ride off onto the left side at the end of your journey. If enemies damage you while you're on the wall, you will immediately fall off. So you cannot cast it in combat, or if you do, you got to make sure you don't get hit while you're charging it up, because people can knock you off while you're in mid ride as well. And you get to pick which side you want to jump off. You can jump off the end. You can jump off right when you start it. You can not ride it at all, and all that good stuff. This ability, I'll show you a couple of angles that you can use at the end of the game, but it's a really good ganking tool. It's a really good ganking tool for creating a wall behind the enemy. You ride in, or just getting into the lane to gank it in the first place. You can also use this to siege down structures or wall people out of contesting for a Baron, stuff like that. You put the wall up. You can block them out. You can block them in their base in the spawn pad while you guys are killing their nexus. So there's a lot of ways you can utilize this ability. Or you can lock them in the Baron pit, and a champion like Kiana can blow up the Baron pit, and it'll also blow up your wall that's connected to it. It's pretty insane. You can blow up like the entire jungle with Taliyah and Kiana. It's pretty nuts. But cool. I'll show you guys a couple angles at the end of the game that you guys can work with. All right, cool. Let's talk about your jungle clear and kind of your early game play with Taliyah. So you most of the time want to go ahead and start your red buff. If you do not get a leash on your red buff, if you're pretty new to playing Taliyah, it feels pretty rough if you have to solo your own red buff. You can 100% do it, especially if you're good at kiting, but if you're new to the champion, I would go ahead and just ask for a leash on your red buff every game until you get more comfortable with kiting on Taliyah and maneuvering around and playing around your workaround and stuff like that. You definitely can solo it, but I would ask for a leash on your red buff. That'd be very nice. The best clear for Taliyah right now is still going to be the Krugs clear. What I mean by Krugs clear is you do your red buff, and then next you'll do your Krugs, then your Raptors, and then from there you can decide to go top, or you can decide to go go to your not top side, but go to your blue side jungle, clear your blue side, or you can just choose to go and look for ganks right at that moment without getting your blue buff. Is fine. Alternatively, you could do it in reverse order to end on the opposite side. So you could do red, Raptors, Krugs, and then look for a bottom gank, or try to look for a vertical jungle play if the enemy started on the other side and you're able to fight them. But going from red, Krugs, Raptors just gives you a little bit more options because you end in the middle of the map, so you can kind of decide where you want to go from there. Alternatively, you could also do this other clear. This is a 4-camp clear. It's not quite as nice. You could just do red, Raptors, Wolves, blue buff, and then by the time you get finished with that, it'll be about time for Scuttle Crab to spawn. So that clear is not quite as efficient as a 4-camp clear. Only times you want to do this is if you specifically want to end on the opposite side of the map. Maybe you're trying to avoid the enemy jungler and you know where they started. That'd be the only time you really want to use that path. Most of the time, the best clear is still going to be full red side. Krugs clear is still usually going to be the best thing. All right, let's talk about Taliyah. Is she an early game champion? Is she a late game champion? What's going on? So Taliyah is actually one of the big powers in playing Taliyah is that she's a ranged jungler. And what that means is really early in the game, a red buff is very powerful. And she can get into lanes really fast. You utilize your passive to ride the wall to get into lanes. And those auto attacks from the red buff are so powerful early on in the game, especially your level 3 and the laner's level 2 or level 3. You get into that lane and you apply your auto attacks to get that burn, get that slow, and kind of helps hit confirm your combo. So having red buff in those early game ganks, so after you get your red buff and your level 3, it's very important to get stuff done. Obviously, if you don't get stuff done, it's okay. But she's actually a very powerful early game jungler at ganking. Once you know how to land your combo consistently, you'll understand what I'm talking about when you understand that she's a really good early game ganker. And one of the big powerful things in ranged junglers is the early game red buff slow. You're able to just bop, red buff, bop, red buff, bop, red buff. It just slows them down, makes it so much easier for your team to chase down. She's also insanely good with champions who have guaranteed CC. So champions like Renekton, who can just flash and guarantee CC, then it guarantees Taliyah's combo. It feels super nice. So you want to play around lanes that have gank assist, and you want to play around when you have red buff especially. It feels really nice, especially really early on in the game. But when we get into the mid game, Taliyah is her ganking is so good already in the early game, and when you get to the mid game, her jungle clear, you can kill jungle camps instantly if you do your full combo. The only thing about that is you have to be a little bit careful using your entire combo, so using your entire or QWE combo is you will burn off a lot of mana pretty fast if you don't have your Runic Echoes completed. So just be careful with using your full combo early on in the game. But when you get to mid game, usually it's pretty fine using your full combo on the jungle camp. And it can instantly clear a jungle camp, like instantly kill your raptors in 1 second. It's pretty nuts and it feels super nice. All right, let's talk about playing the champion in the mid to late game. So this champion is a great teamfight champion. You don't have to look for those crazy flank plays, those crazy, like, I'm going to split the fight down. I remember one of the first pro games I ever watched, seriously, is I watched Bjergsen. And this was like super impressive. He threw his ultimate down the center of mid lane in the middle of a team fight and separated the team fight in half. And then he 1v1'd the enemy mid laner on the other side of the wall and then broke the wall down and then helped his team. Like, that was insane. You don't have to do that. If you do that, awesome. If you look for those Bobby Big plays, cool. But most of the time, it's going to be fine just playing as a backline mage. You just sit there, fire your volleys, do consistent damage. You have a lot of self-peel. If they have an enemy assassin, you're next to your other carries, and they land, and you can be like, don't worry, guys, I can peel, and you knock them away. You basically one-shot enemy assassins. So just playing like a backline mage most of the time is going to be great. There are definitely situations where you can look for those Bobby Big flanks where you throw the wall behind them and you're like, I'm here, and you do some crazy stuff where you one-shot the backliner. There's definitely plays, but the most consistent way to play Taliyah is just honestly play like a backline mage, and it's going to be fine. And then know when you want to look for those angles to get behind them. You do want to utilize your wall, and especially when you're taking objectives, to cut enemies off from getting in or separating enemies in a fight. Separating enemies in a fight around objective can be very useful. Just make sure you keep an eye on your wall. If you're kind of messing your team up, then you can drop the wall. You can cancel it just like a J4 ultimate. So you don't have to look for these crazy, nutty flank plays on Taliyah, because a lot of times you'll just find yourself looking for a flank, and then you're not even looking at your curse, and you get one shot by an assassin. Can happen a lot of time. Really, you just play like a backline mage, you're going to be fine, but if you want to look for those big plays, there's definitely spots where you can look for those big plays. All right, let's talk about your skill order. So you want to start your Q, obviously. I'm a big fan of doing W second and using it to kite your camps to keep you a little bit more healthy, but you can also totally just run E second, and that's fine. But let's just talk about what you're going to max. You're going to max your Q 100% of the time, then you're going to max your E, and then W last. That's going to be pretty standard right there. Talk about some counter picks. Okay, one of the worst champions to play into as Taliyah is going to be Olaf for sure. And Olaf is probably we're at patch 9.24 right now, where we're doing this at, and it's about to be 10.1. Olaf is so insane right now. If the enemy is good at playing Olaf, and after Olaf is 6, it's very hard for you to do anything because you're not going to be able to disable him, and he's just literally going to run at you and kill you. So Olaf is pretty difficult to do post 6. If you're not good at landing your combo very quickly, assassins can feel really bad. But once you start getting better at playing Taliyah, and you build a Zanya, so they have a lot of assassins, then you can actually assassinate the assassins when they jump onto you. Really, the only champion that feels really, really, really awful to play against as Taliyah is definitely Olaf post 6. Everybody else, if you want to avoid them, Taliyah can just move around the map so easy. And once you're really good at landing the combos, even if they have champions that get on top of you, as long as you are consistent at landing your combo, you'll feel fine most of the time. Just Olaf feels really bad. I feel like every single one of these videos I say, champions that you'll feel bad going into, Olaf, because that champion is just something else right now. All right, here we are in game. I'm going to show you guys a couple of combos here. So the big thing around playing Taliyah is your WE combo. So I'm going to show you guys about 4 variations of this combo, increasing in difficulty as I go. So the first form of the combo is to actually throw out your E first, then your W. The rest of them are all going to be your leading with your W. But if you're really new to playing Taliyah and you're not quite comfortable with landing your combo, if you get this close to your enemy, you can use your E first to apply the slow and then do your W. So this is the easiest form of doing this combo. So it looks something like this. And then you throw out your W to hit confirm. So you just use your E to help you slow the enemy so you can easily hit your W. and use it like that. So that's the easiest form of the combo. That's not the most efficient way to use it, but if you're really uncomfortable playing the champion, you're just learning, maybe you lead with that combo the first couple times. The drawback to it is you do have to get pretty close to them to apply the slow, whereas your W is just outside of the range of your slow. Okay, so here is the next level of this combo. So this is using your E or your W first, and then throwing out your E while your W animation is still going, and your E will basically pop up whenever they're getting knocked up, and will explode your E instantly. So it'll look something like this. So you'll throw out your W first, and then your E immediately. It looks like that. And then I throw out my Q as well, but I'm trying to not get worked ground everywhere. All right, cool. I'll show that again. So you throw out your W first, and then your, I'm gonna just word this. Throw out your W first, and then your E. Boom, just like that. It's pretty easy. And remember, you can also just change the direction. So if like you're getting chased down by an enemy, you can maybe just like that, and then boop them away whenever they get too close. Obviously didn't throw it on them. I was pretending like he was running at me. Cool. All right, so that's the first level of this. The next level of it is to flash and then WE. There's a level after this, by the way, which is using your Alt keys as well. So I'm going to flash and then WE him. So it'll look something like this. I'm a little bit out of range. Like that. Cool. So that's the next level of it, is you flash and then use your WE combo. Cool, and then you use your Q at the end of it as well. All right, there is one more level of this combo. Honestly, I'm not very good at doing this level of the combo. I just don't use my Alt keys a lot. So if you're not very good at using your Alt keys and you run quick cast, then this combo might be a little bit tougher for you. So you need to use your Alt keys so you can make an indicator. So your champion, basically what I'm doing right here is, if you don't know much about Alt keys, if you use your Alt keys when you have quick cast on, you can set a spot, and I'm going to take my hands off the keyboard, and Taliyah will go ahead and walk that direction and throw it out. The same will apply if I throw my W. If I do that same thing, oh whoops, I don't want to be moving. Wait, I'm too close. The same thing will apply is if I put it down like this, and I flash in range, she'll do it as well. So so I didn't press the ability again. I just set the indicator, and then once I was in range, she cast the ability. So this is a little bit more advanced to do. So this is the final level of this combo. But essentially, I can be walking up to my enemy, and it's a little bit quicker because I don't actually have to cast it whenever I land. It'll auto cast it for me, so I don't have to take the time to actually press the button after I flash. So it just makes your reaction time a little bit quicker. So it's a little bit quicker than it was before. I find it a little bit difficult if you don't use your Alt keys a whole lot to hit it on a moving target. So let's say I'm just moving through. If you're not used to using your Alt keys, then it can feel a little bit difficult. But if you just sit around and practice tool for a little bit, like I sat around and practice tool earlier today when I was getting ready to film this video, and I found it pretty consistent to hit the combo after I practice. All right, now I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is on this bot. Okay, let's try the combo. Nope, I missed. See, I still have trouble with it as well with using your Alt keys. I normally don't do that level of the combo. I don't think it's that consistent unless you honestly just use Alt keys all the time. But I personally don't. So I either just do the normal combo, or I'd use the flash one without holding down my Alt keys. So it's a little bit slower though. So if you want to just spend some time in practice tool, then you can figure it out. Whoops, I messed that up. Anyways, I'm going to stop before I embarrass myself more. Anyways, guys, hey, thanks so much for watching this video. I'm going to go ahead and stop this while I'm ahead. Guys, this stuff is hard to do. Wait, before I get done, let's talk about some angles that you can use for your ultimate. So this is Max Rank's ultimate, so it's a little bit bigger than it would normally be. It can cover like half the map. Normally it's not that big. Normally it's about, when you're level 6, it is about from here to here. So something about that, whenever you go for tri-bush ganks on, let's say, bottom lane, you can stand at this wall, and you can almost completely wall them out right here. Ayah! You can almost completely wall them out right there, and it does feel pretty nice. Additionally, let's say we're going for the Baron, and you guys are on this side, you guys are fighting the Baron, and I can use my wall to wall people out right there. So let's say the enemy jungler's over here, and then we can keep them out, so we can utilize our wall like that. Another thing you can do is in the middle of let's say you guys are in the middle of a team fight, the enemy team engages on you, and let's say our back line for the enemy team is right here, and our front line is engaging, then I can just use my wall to separate the fight. And then we can all kill the backliner right here. Boom. Yay, we have a good time. Alright, whenever you're in the enemy base, you can also just utilize some angles by standing far on one side and then ulting like that. And you can block them out from there. So you just want to stand on one far side so you can stop that from happening. Additionally, whenever you guys are sieging, you can do... Oh, look at these minion damage. You can do similar things by doing that. While you guys are sieging, you can block them out from hitting the wall. As well as you can just ride it in so you can kill people. Oh, she didn't move. Hey, why you no move? Why you stand in tower range? What you doing? Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Hope this one didn't draw it too long. I think it's probably going to be another 30-minute video or more. But hey, guys, thanks so much for watching this. I know I haven't made a video in a while, but if you're watching this later anyways, like later in the year, then you won't even know that. Sorry I've been making videos. I'll have an update video coming out soon. I know I've been saying that for literally ages. But I promise I'll have an update video coming out soon, just letting you guys know what the plans are for the channel and stuff like that. So that out of the way, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on the next video. I've said guys 1,000 times. I'll keep saying it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Bye!